Yeah, it's paying attention to those signs, right? And really recognizing it. And that can really come from, you know, going in, going deeper within, right? And allowing that information. I mean, think of it was Ram Dass that said, the quieter you become, the more you can hear, right? Mm-hmm. And so having those little synchronicities from the universe, kind of guiding us, it's our little guiding light in a sense.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wealth Within Us. I am Michelle, and today I have Kandi Mullen here with me, and she is not only a Reiki master, but she helps people and coaches people on their own spiritual journeys, and she's going to share all of that. I can't wait to get into this conversation with you, Kandi. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm excited to be here. And I'm really thrilled about the opportunity to talk more and dive into some of this stuff that we have planned for today.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's start out with, how did you get into this? From what we were talking about, seems like you got into it when you were much younger and didn't like I think many people didn't really realize what was going on. So I'd love to hear that journey.
Yeah, there were things that were, as a young kid, things that I would see, or sometimes you just know things, but, you're sort of like, oh, that's just, you're just imagining that, or it's not really there, or there's nothing there. And then it started to frighten you a little bit, right? It would frighten me thinking like, oh, well, if it's not there, what is this? And so as a young kid, I had all of these little experiences, but nobody to really mentor me.
Yeah, and no one talked about it either.
Nobody talked about it, especially not in my family. So as I got older, things started to open up even more. And, there was a time, and I think it was around 13 or 14, when I just knew some things were going to happen, and they did. And they weren't really positive things. And I just yelled out to the universe, stop, I don't want this anymore. And it did. And then it started to come back slowly but surely. I got into like communicating with the angels in the late 90s.
Okay.
And using oracle cards. So I had a lot of fun with that and having different readings, Akashic readings. And my sister and I were really into it. And we'd sit around and throw our cards. And then once in a while I would do it, the readings with some friends. But then, it just started to evolve a little bit more. And I started getting more interested in other things. Things started to open up once again. I started to have really interesting experiences once again, like in my own brand new condo, first owner, and all kinds of paranormal stuff happening.
Wow.
And that was the other thing, is that I could sense energy in a room.
Yeah.
Like I
was
knew
it built on some kind of previous land or something. So maybe not the building, but was it maybe the land?
It could have been on the land. This was in Atlanta and in the downtown area. So absolutely. It could be anything. It could be things that you bring into your home, whether it's new, right? Because stuff is sitting somewhere else. So there's energy all around, no matter what. So whether it's really old or whether it's new, I find oftentimes it doesn't matter. I'm always saging. I'm always clearing my stuff, because there's you pick up energy anywhere. And I sort of am that. True. I don't know if I have a light around me and I attract it. I feel like it's like they hop on my back and come home with me.
Yeah, it's funny. I ordered a pendulum once, a pendulum of all things. I ordered a pendulum on Amazon, and I'll tell you, this thing was freaky. And I even put it out. It happened to be like a full moon. I even put it out in the moon. I saged this thing. I'll tell you, I sent it back.
You did.
It was like, I don't know. It was just always in this very strange, like I could feel it. It had this very strange thing. So I don't know if it was made in China or where it was, like, I don't really know, but I ended up sending it back. And now I have two pendulums, but they're handmade from like a local crafter. And I'm like, I feel
nice,
better with this, but it was so funny. It was just like you said, it was whatever it was. I knew that something was off of it and it was not meant for me. And I need to send it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And imagine,
I'm glad you paid attention to that. You know?
And think about stuff you get at an antique place, not even new, like you said.
Right. Exactly. How much energy can be, just surrounding that or attached to
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interesting that you say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I could tap into or feel like a different energy around. And I was having all sorts of interesting things happen in this brand new condo. And one day I just, and then I could feel that my intuition was heightening.
Mm.
And I would sort of know things about certain people in terms of it wasn't always comfortable for me. And it wasn't as though I was looking at somebody reading them, the information would just flow to me. And I thought,
Okay.
oh, that's interesting. So I didn't know what to do with all this because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody that I could really talk to.
Mhm.
And I kept just asking because one of the things that I do know is that we really need to ask for guidance. And I'm good about saying what direction, what now, what do I need to do? And I was a meditator.
Mhm.
So I would sit and tap in and see what messages I would get. But I finally just was really clear like, what is it that I'm supposed to do with all this? And I feel like at the time it was spirit saying, you're going to do this because I had this really random email. And I thought, I'm going to just delete it. The subject line didn't appeal to me and I was ready to get rid of it. And I thought, well, I kept hearing, don't
Take a
delete it,
second
just
thought.
open it. And I thought, no, I'm going to delete it. And so I'm having this little conversation going on in my mind. And finally, I heard, just open it, don't delete it.
Mm.
So I acquiesced, opened up the email. And as I scanned through it, there at the bottom of the page was an announcement for a Reiki class. And it happened to be right around the corner from where I was at the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. And I heard, just do it. And I thought, Reiki? Why do I want to do Reiki? And I just heard that little voice again say, just do it. Because I didn't really have any context around Reiki. I never aspired to be a healer or, a Reiki practitioner, let alone go on to be a Reiki master and teach it. I really didn't. I had one Reiki session prior to that, and that was in Italy, probably 4 years prior to that. And I couldn't really communicate with the practitioner because she didn't speak any English. I didn't really speak any Italian. And first, she had actually completed a massage for me. So then from the massage, she moved into the Reiki session. So I had no context around it. So I was pretty surprised when I saw that Reiki class and,
Yeah.
I'm hearing, just do it. So I did. I took the class, and this was 15 years ago, January 11th, 2009. So as this is my 15th year anniversary of practicing, but it was in that class that I knew I wanted to go on and complete all the training and levels because I wanted to teach it. Because I thought wow, this is so valuable. And I really had no idea just how valuable the practice would be. It really went on to be my way of understanding a lot of what was going on with me. It helped with spiritual growth.
Mhm.
It helped with just calming me down and navigating through, real turbulent, what seemed turbulent at the time, challenges that life balance challenges that we go through. So it was really a blessing that came along and that I paid attention to it. And
Yeah,
so
you listen.
that's how I got started with practicing Reiki. And I opened up my private practice. And as I was practicing, other things started to become noticeable to me. I would get this sense that there was somebody else there with us. And I'd get a message for the recipient, the receiver, the client. And I thought, I can't say anything because,
Mhm.
Reiki practice isn't necessarily about readings or reading people,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's a spiritual practice and
Yeah.
it really helps the person to move into the rest and digest state so that the body can start healing itself or they could just start feeling better quickly.
Yeah, it's more about the individual rather than bringing other people in. But I guess if you looked at it from the other side, what is bringing in that other, like your spirit guides and the angels? So I guess in some ways it is like you're bringing in these other
You can,
energies, so to say, to help with the practice while you're practicing on the purpose or the person. And plus, wouldn't you think that as the receiver, you're on the table and you're receiving Reiki, your own guides and your angels and everything are there with you too.
Yeah, I don't, I do feel sometimes the room full
Okay.
of people. It's really interesting. So I don't want to scare anyone that,
Yeah,
thinking
that's
that
true.
this is going to be everybody's experience, because it's not, because everybody does have a really different experience.
True.
But yeah, there are times where I go, oh wow, that's so interesting. And I really don't call anybody in, because I
Yeah.
know that the body is going to just respond to what the person needs at that moment. And what I guess I started to realize is it was people that needed some sort of message
Wow.
in some way. And I was the one they were seeking out. And I finally had to realize why this was happening. But the even cooler thing about it is oftentimes those people would be getting the same message,
Mm.
or the same, they would say to me, I feel like my father was here. And then I could validate saying, yes, as a matter of fact, I had the same experience, and this is the message. And it doesn't happen all the time, but it happened enough that it made me more aware of my abilities and these gifts that I maybe should consider looking into or developing further. And so it was, from that point on, and I started, I was obviously had my own private practice, and I was teaching people how to practice Reiki. And one of the byproducts of it is people's intuition can heighten from it. Not everybody, but that's one of the things that people will notice from practicing Reiki.
Yeah, it almost seems
So,
like a natural byproduct of it.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I got started, and started to really develop this whole other, my own abilities, stepping more fully into it, because, it wasn't always real comfortable. And I didn't really have a circle of friends that were into it. I had a few people, few really good friends that I could talk to this stuff about. But quite frankly, I didn't have a whole lot, didn't have a big, huge community of
Yeah.
people. Right. So
Yeah,
that's
it is
always
so
real
true.
interesting, because you're kind of really gun shy about sharing this information.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
especially if you're in somebody's house and you know that you're not alone, and there's like this entity there, and they don't want to hear anything about it, but you can just feel them there. So it's really been interesting. It's been a really interesting journey.
yeah. And I mean, think about all the people that you helped on top of it.
That I
Not
what?
that you helped on top of it, not only move and process their own energy and help them heal themselves, but with the messages as well. So you said that your sister kind of also does this. Did you guys ever ask your mom or your dad if they had any, or it was something that they wouldn't talk about?
So my mother didn't know what to think of all this, because my
Okay.
sister does. Yeah, when we would try to talk to her, and I would tease her, I'm like, Mom, because I believed that she was intuitive. And
Hmm.
I said, oh, Mom, you're so psychic. And she'd be like, oh, stop. No, she didn't want anything to do with it. And I remember this one time saying to my father, well, and I was younger. I said, you know how it is when you close your eyes and all of those people show up? And he goes, no. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I was like, oh, I had to, because, I would, as a kid, I'd shut my eyes and I feel like there's just all these people standing in front of me. And a lot of times they were always dressed in a different period clothing. So I don't know if it was just kind of a loop of the energy and the space, or, they were trying to get messages to me, or, and it was just so. But my father did recognize that I had, because this was funny. So he's always had dogs. And his
Okay.
dogs, for whatever reason, would always really gravitate towards me and take to me. And they always he used to always like tease, like, you must have some doggy karma around you, because the dogs are always following you around. You must have like dog spirits around you, because we can't figure it out. But he also lived in a house that had some spirits in there.
Okay.
And yeah, so he was aware of it, and but I'm not sure that he fully embraced or tapped in to possibly what he has, or had, I should say, at the time.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, on my mother's side, my grandmother, when I think back, she absolutely had healing abilities,
Mm-hmm.
because I think about when she would place her hands on my forehead when I would try to go to sleep at night. If I was all wound up, it would just help calm me and put me right to sleep. And she also read several of Edgar Casey's books.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she just didn't talk. So I have a feeling she was pretty intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that her mother, my great grandmother, she had healing abilities. She would
Oh,
help
wow.
people heal. But they were Italian, so they were really trying to fit in, and they didn't want to bring any other attention to themselves, right? And so they weren't really very forthcoming with any of it. I wish
No.
they had been, because I may have been able to develop and had some mentoring going on and a little bit better understanding, because I went through a lot of years just not understanding it all, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And today, though, it seems that, especially within the last several years, that the communities that are around this not only, I think, are growing, they seem a lot more genuine. Because I got into this way back in like the early, like 2008, I would say. And some of the communities were, I would say some of them took advantage,
Mhm.
especially more the male members, took advantage of their spirituality, especially because women would like swoon.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, because especially as women, we're like, "Ooh, we're not used to this spiritual man stuff. Like, what is going on?"
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I
It's
think
so
it
true.
is and I do think it is changing, and the communities that are, I think, developing now just seem much more genuine and much more like focused on not only growing the abilities that we have, but like you said, discovering new, because it's almost like seems like they pop up
Mhm.
and you're
Yeah.
like, and you have to be willing to pay attention to it, as you did with that email. If you wouldn't have paid attention to it,
Right.
then you wouldn't have. It's almost like, yeah, listening to your higher self.
Yeah, it's paying attention to those signs, right? And really recognizing it. And that can really come from, you know, going in, going deeper within, right? And allowing that information to be revealed. I mean, think if it was Ram Dass that said, the quieter you become, the more you can hear,
Mhm.
right? And so having those little synchronicities from the universe, kind of guiding us, it's our little
Oh,
guiding light in a sense. And following into that and not just brushing it off. Why not explore it? Why
yeah.
not just, if it doesn't bring any harm or hurt you, then explore what that message could possibly be. But it's often, especially in today's day and age, people have a hard time tapping into that because there's just so much, stuff going on around them.
We're
And
bombarded with information all day in multiple forms of information
right,
all day long.
right, right. So
Yeah.
the practice, so Reiki practice, and I think, I attribute a lot of my growth is because I practice every day.
Mhm.
It is the foundation of the practice is for self-care. So I'm getting really quiet.
Yeah.
Well, and I do it first thing in the morning. I like to do my practice then, but it could be applied any time of day.
Huh.
But I get a lot of information. Like when I have a question about something, I'm not really sure what to do about this, or, I was thinking about starting this, or I don't feel creative right now. I don't know what to do. And honestly, I feel like a lot of times that information comes during my practice time when I'm supposed to be quiet. But that's why it's showing up, because I am
Yeah,
quiet.
because
I
you
can
are
hear it.
quiet. Exactly.
Right?
I absolutely love that you said that, because I don't think people often look at these modalities as self-care, when really it's kind of the core of self-care, wouldn't you think? I
Yeah.
mean, you just said it, and even kind of triggered in my own, spiritual practice that I have in the morning with I'm like, yeah, that is all self-care. So it's not just about maybe developing your talent, or maybe you never even want to become a practitioner. But if you
Right.
even take it from that self-care aspect, yeah, I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is it just because you take a Reiki class doesn't mean that you are inspired to go out and start doing as a
Yeah.
professional Reiki practitioner sessions or healing work, right? It's I can't tell you how many people take the class from me, the level 1 class, because they want a way to take better care of themselves. And I mean, I've had the oldest student I had was 87 years old because he wanted to take care of himself. The doctor was telling me you need surgery. And he goes, no
Oh,
way. I'm not doing it. And so he came and took a Reiki class with me. I mean, that's fantastic.
it
And,
is.
I've had multiple people well into their 70s that take class, but you're never too old to learn, right?
No.
And they're learning as young as age 5 because kids can recognize a difference, especially if they're, been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, that this practice really helps them to settle and calm down. And that's one of the beauties of the practice is it can help us because, it can really, it moves us to that rest and digest response. And when we're in that response, we start to feel better. We're calmer.
Mhm.
We feel a little more relaxed, maybe not as chaotic, maybe more centered, balanced,
Yeah.
whatever that is to you, grounded, right?
Yeah. Because the opposite of rest and digest is fight or flight.
Fight or flight. And you can only be in one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we move into that rest and digest, and then that's oftentimes when people can notice certain conditions or symptoms might improve, or they start feeling better. Their sleep improves, digestion improves. I mean, it could be just a whole wealth of information or, experiences they could have.
Yeah.
So it's really important I think it's a wonderful practice, if for nothing else, but having a way to take care of yourself. Is something as simple as it was this past summer when I was traveling abroad and my flight first leg was to another city was to Atlanta, and it was delayed. My flight out of the airport was delayed by like 4 hours. So like, don't worry, all the flights are going to be delayed. You'll make it. Well, not only did I not make my international flight, but I missed the last flight of the night. That's how late we got in. And I was meeting a friend in Paris, and she was absolutely surprised and shocked. She's like, I can't believe you're not complaining. You've never complained once, because I missed a whole day in Paris, right?
Yeah.
And I was so bummed. But what I did was when I got on the flight, I just applied Reiki. Well, and of course I applied it. I was sitting in an airport for the next 24 hours. So what else could I do? But I applied Reiki. I stayed calm. I didn't stress about it. There was no sense in worrying because I couldn't change the outcome.
Yeah.
So it really has its benefits because you can apply it anywhere, practice at any time. It's easy.
And for any purpose, if you have a speech, if you have a test, I mean, oh my gosh, if you're in an argument with someone,
in an argument,
I mean, oh my gosh, the possibilities for that type of self-care, which is a form of self-care, because you're sitting and you're all stressed out. It's not doing any good to sit in that state. So you need a way to calm yourself down. And I can't think of any other better method of self-care than calming ourselves down in stressful situations.
Exactly. It's a beautiful practice. It just has so many benefits.
Yeah. And like you said, it's opening up your own spiritual practice, and people are becoming more and more open to talk about this and share it.
Exactly. They really are. And it can help them like it helped me. I would get people, oftentimes somebody will call and say, well, you're going to think that this is really strange. And I think to myself, oh, just try me because I've had strange and a lot of experiences. And so then I can just kind of walk them through and help guide them through it. And, eventually, because of what I've shared with them and having somebody that they can talk to and feel safe about, right? And then feel good about going into a class with other people, knowing that a lot of the people there, not everybody, may have had some sort of similar experience or, are there for the same reasons. But it's just a way that we can take care of ourselves and develop our little bit more of a spiritual understanding, right? And observe who we are, observe what we're about. What is our purpose?
Yeah.
What is our truth? Exactly.
Well, what am I supposed to be doing? And I mean, the things that you can check in with yourself, whether you're confused or you're unsure, or you have path A and path B. Well, which path do I take? I mean, just sitting around and having your mind go crazy about it, if you can sit in silence for a little while so that you can hear, and it is funny. So yeah, we sit in silence so that we can hear what our higher selves are telling us, what our guides are telling us. I mean, that's where the true answers are, at least true to us.
The
Because
truth to, yep.
the answers for you may not be the answer for me.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. But it's going in, because when we go in too, think about if we're in this state of chaos, why are we in chaos? What's going on? You know, because whatever's going on in the inner world pretty much is happening in that outer world, right?
Yes, because it's always a reflection.
So if we can just move into that relaxed state, then even our vibration shifts, and people start to notice something a little different with you when you start practicing. Or maybe you don't practice and maybe you see a Reiki practitioner. And, you know, I've had multiple students say, my family has really noticed a difference because of my daily practice. You know, I used to be triggered by this, but I no longer am triggered by this. I'm much more calmer now. You know, I don't feel as chaotic. I don't feel like, you know, I'm spiraling out of control. And, you know, it shifts the vibration around us. And that amplifies out, right? You know, it's like when you walk into a room and you think, oh, I don't really like that energy over there. Or somebody walks into a room that you're in and it doesn't feel right. Or the flip side could be, oh, that energy is great, you know, or somebody comes up to you and starts talking to you and sharing all this stuff. And then they look at you and go, I don't know why I'm sharing all this with you, you know, but that's because you've got a really good vibe. And, you know, oftentimes I find people that are engaged in meditation or, you know, a spiritual practice like Reiki, they have that, you know, kind of feel good. People just sort of are drawn to them.
Yeah. Because you're spending less and less time in that fight or flight mode. And that fight or flight mode, I mean, oh my gosh, if you're in there all day long, which I think a lot of people are, to be honest, I think a lot of people spend most of their day in fight or flight. So think about your vibration there. And if you can calm that down and level yourself out through this self-care practice, you're going to be even just more happier and glowing on the outside, let alone the effect it has on the people around you and the decisions that you make.
And the decisions, because you'll probably have greater clarity, right? Because you've gotten really quiet. And oftentimes when we have greater clarity, we tend to make better choices, right? Because we're clearer and we can make better choices that way. So there's just a whole, and when we're in the rest and digest, symptoms or conditions that we're experiencing can start to fall away. You know, optimizes our self-healing mechanism. And that's when, you know, the body starts to function better. It feels better.
Yeah. And I think that truly our bodies are made to heal themselves if we treat the body in a way that allows it to heal itself. And I
agree with that. Absolutely, wholeheartedly. And, you know, through just a simple practice like applying your hands. You know, people go, well, how do you do Reiki for yourself? I'm like, just place your hands on the body. That's it. It's pretty simple, and sit that way for a couple of minutes. I mean, I always start a lot of my talks, or, you know, if it's a presentation or something like that, either by having somebody volunteer that I can apply Reiki to, or I'll have the whole room engage in a little self-care, whether they practice Reiki or not. It's still beneficial. You know, there's enough documented research around touch, right? So whether it's self-touch or touch with somebody else, right? It's still very beneficial. So yeah, and it just can really start the healing process. When you think about it, right? What do we do when we bang our elbow on the wall? What's the first natural reaction?
Yeah, you grab it.
Grab it. Right?
It.
Why? Because
maybe you rub it, you're like, oh.
It's warm, it's comforting, and it actually starts the healing process. And so we just don't think about it.
Send energy here.
We've always been doing, we started that as a kid. I mean, maybe as a kid, we'd fall and we'd scrape our knee and we'd run to mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, pick me up, kiss my boo-boo, right? Hold me,
Mhm.
because it's comforting.
Yes, yes.
So it's really innate within us.
It is. Because it is innate to heal ourselves. We've just lost touch over the thousands of years, I think.
Yeah, along came, there's the alternative medicine, we've got traditional and conventional medicine. And in conventional medicine, we're not necessarily taught to treat ourselves, but when we do seek care from our practitioner or our physician, they're generally treating just what's wrong with you, just that symptom,
Yeah.
whether that's you have an earache, they're going to treat the
Mhm.
earache, or it's a sore throat, they're going to treat the sore throat, right?
Yeah, not
But with
the body.
Reiki practice, it's a full body
Yeah.
treatment. So I like to my protocol is just follow the endocrine system. Now, of course, if I had some knee pain or something, I might apply my hand there. Or if I'm doing a session for somebody and they do share with me that they're having some hip pain or lower back pain, then I will apply my hands there for, a little while. But
Yeah.
I like to just follow the endocrine system and to cover the full body. And oftentimes the body's going to respond. Here's the thing is with Reiki practice too, it's just beautiful because there's really nothing I need to do. I don't need to call anything in. I don't need to balance anything because it's a balancing practice already,
Okay.
right? It's moving the body towards that balanced state. And then that's when the magic can happen it's what doctors say to us, right? Stay in bed, get some rest. Why? Because it's balancing. And
Yeah.
when the body's in that state, then, our self-healing mechanism is optimized. The
Yeah.
body can start to heal itself.
And you figure everything, no matter what it is based on on being balanced, like the earth itself. If the earth is out of balance, the earth is going to react out. If we're out of balance, we're going to either show up in disease, or we're going to become frustrated, or we're going to become unhappy. Like it'll show up in all different kinds of our lives. It's like, it's not just people, I feel, that need to be in balance. It's the world or the reality that is around us or that we're creating. The more in balance that is, and the more in harmony that is, then I mean, oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless for humanity, and not just for humanity, for the planet.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's really important that we do our part
Yeah.
because we're putting that out there. So the
Yeah. And we're
more that
connected. We're all connected. We're connected to
right,
each
we're all
other. We're
connected.
connected to the earth. We're all connected.
Right. And we can look at nature. Nature is cyclical, right? And it's all
Mhm.
about patterns. And that can really teach us a lot. And
Yes.
so, if we start to do our own part with just starting with ourself,
Mm,
and we just get that ripple effect and we get more and more and more and more and more and more people on that way. I mean, I just really believe that's why a lot of the shift is happening too, is because people are starting to engage more. It's important for them. They want to feel good on the inside. It's not just about applying cream or this and that to look good on the outside, but the inside needs to feel good. And oftentimes the outside will radiate that because you're
reflect.
feeling better on the inside,
That,
right?
yeah. The balance of the inside and the outside. It
Exactly.
is so true. And just even that self-care thing, I know, at least I think when I was growing up, and I grew up in the 70s, and I felt that there was this, if you did these things for yourself, that you were selfish, and it was always about doing things for other people, and then the people that did things for themselves were selfish. But I truly believe that there's nothing more selfless than taking care of yourself. Because if you're depleted, how can you take care of your job, your family, your work, your home, your body? If you're depleted and you're not taking care of yourself, again, like you said, it's a reflection of everything outside of you. But when you are, you radiate that out. Just as you said, walking into a room, people can feel, oh, she takes care of herself. And I used to go to the spa when my kids were younger. I would go to the spa or go to this. And I'll tell you, my kids were better off for me doing those.
Yeah. Right.
Like people are better off when we take care of ourselves and we're not just giving all our energy away. And it doesn't matter what it's to. You could be giving all of your energy away to your kids, to your job, to people that are just literally sucking the energy out of you. And it doesn't matter what, but when you're not leaving enough for yourself, it shows so much. And again, out of balance, and a body out of balance brings on what? Disease in the
Disease.
body.
Well, if you remember from your Reiki training, that was one of the things that Mrs. Takata would say: treat yourself first, then treat the another.
Exactly.
You always take
So
care of
true.
yourself first.
Yeah.
And when you think about getting on a flight, what do they tell you when the oxygen mask
Mhm.
drops? Put yours on
Yeah.
first before you help the person next to you.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm no good to anybody. If I can't breathe, how am I going
Right.
to help my child, the person next to me, or anybody else if I'm
Exactly.
struggling? Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
equate it to that. So yeah, self-care is not a luxury. That one of the things I say is our wealth is in our health.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more work that we can do, the more personal practice work we can do, I mean, everybody benefits.
Oh my
I
God.
think even like the environment outside, the
Mhm.
trees, the,
I
the
think so
ground that I walk
too.
in, Mother Earth is happier.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you're taking care, because I often find that if I care enough about myself, then I naturally care about other people. But if I discard my own self and discard my own health, then why would I care about anybody else's? It sort of comes through in that way.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think if you're out polluting the environment, you must not care very much about yourself because you're also clearly not caring about the water or the soil that's around you or the plants and the food that you're eating.
Exactly. Exactly right. One of the things that I do when I want to do or offer like a virtual healing circle is I have everybody take care of themselves first. So we do a little self practice, whether that's self care or self Reiki, wherever you are. Maybe you're a Reiki practitioner, maybe you're not. And so that we all come from a common place, and then we share with one another and do a little guided visualization, and we connect. And then I open it up for the collective. And so, but I just feel like we need to take care of ourselves first before we can share with one another, right?
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. So I always do that first. It just
Mhm.
feels good. So yeah, so that's I would say, with Reiki practice, there's just so many benefits to it, not even just from a physical standpoint, but from the emotional standpoint, because oftentimes we have stuff stuck or
Mhm.
imbalances because of thoughts, old
Yeah,
patterns. And this really helps us to clear or observe and work towards releasing that,
yep,
because it's like you said, we can cause some dis-ease if we don't release these emotions
yeah.
that we might be walking around bottled up within us.
Hmm.
So
I think
there's
Reiki helps that energy move. It like keeps that energy that was once stagnant. It's moving through that stagnant energy as well.
Yeah, so I say that there's an imbalance usually,
Hmm.
and that it's balancing it now, and it's just kind of moving through.
Yeah.
We're pushing it through, um, and then also from a mental standpoint, and then spiritual growth. So it really has a lot of benefits. It is a subtle practice, though, so it's not oftentimes. I don't hear a lot from people that they've had this really dramatic experience. I have. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but often it's a more subtle experience that the person has. And I
Yeah.
always help them understand their experience so they can put some context around it. So, yeah, but it's helped me in a variety of ways. And, what we talked about earlier, being on my spiritual path, spiritual growth, understanding these abilities that I had, it sort of forced me to confront that and to really nurture and develop it, because now I can help others too, because I have the capacity and the ability to do so. Now, I'm not saying I can do it all, but I have a way of, taking care of myself, and having these experiences can often help what might seem frightening or uneasy to another, and put some context around it to make it a little bit more digestible for them. And they feel more at ease and more comfortable with it. And they can start on their own journey.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you've brought together all these different modalities that you have learned, it does kind of become this practice that you've kind of developed yourself and in your own way, which is, I think, where we all are. We all kind of do our things in our own way, but it's so much more beneficial to the person that you're working with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like this rounded, kind of coming full circle around, and you kind of round out what's going on, or, how you see it, and how you can, talk through it, and what can you do to help that person nurture it.
Yeah. Because you're
And,
picking up on the intuitiveness. You're intuitively picking up on that. What does this person versus the person that I just saw an hour ago need?
Yeah. 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 And, I initially will just approach a client the same way. I don't ever I don't do intakes. I don't need to. And if they want to share with me, great, but I don't require that, because sometimes it's real personal, and I don't want anyone to feel like that I have to have this information.
Yeah.
And I feel like the session will evolve, or, occur for the person with what they need at that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever their needs are, is how the session is going to their experience and their takeaway. And one of the things I really do try to help them understand their own personal experience. People say, well, what did you feel? What did you get? Well, what did you feel? Let me help you understand, because I feel like we know our bodies the best, right? Better than anybody. And so let me help you. I remember I did have this one client, and she wanted me to tell her everything that was wrong with her. Now, first off, you need to be super careful, because you don't want to be seen as practicing medicine, right? Because you're not licensed to practice medicine. And I certainly don't diagnose anybody. And I certainly don't, come up with some sort of treatment plan other than applying Reiki. But diagnosing, there's just, I stay away from that. And she wanted me to tell her everything that was wrong with her. And I instead took the approach, well, let's break down, and I tried to help her understand. And she just really wanted me to tell her what chakras were blocked, and I realized I probably wasn't a good fit for her, and that's okay, because I'm not going to be something to everyone, and I don't try to be.
Yeah.
So, and that was just her path. And I want to figure out, it's just like my health or my nutrition. If I have to change up because something's no longer working, I figure it out, figure out herbs, I figure out supplements, I have some resources that I'll go to, and then work from there. I'd rather do that and apply Reiki than before going to, seek conventional medicine, which I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. If I absolutely positively needed the care of a doctor in our healthcare system today, then obviously I would. But I try to maintain good health.
Yeah. And I think our conventional system in the state that it's in now is really good at emergent care. Just in my personal opinion, I think it falls a lot short in chronic care for the reasons that we were talking about, just as it doesn't look at the whole body. It looks at the body as bits and pieces, but not as the whole system for the most part. And I wanted to also add, because you had mentioned it's often a subtle effect. I agree, but I think that these subtle effects, when you continue to do the practice, those subtle effects add up over time to, like you were saying before, I noticed like you're really a lot calmer. You don't get angry as often as you used to, or, fired up as quick as you used to. So although we may say it's a subtle benefit, I think those subtle benefits adding up over time make a huge impact.
That's an excellent point because it is cumulative,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the more practice, the more work that we do, the body stays in
Uh-huh.
that, longer period of time in that balanced state. We're
Yeah.
probably more in the rest and digest
Mm-hmm.
than we are in the fight or flight. And because we have an easy way to take care of ourselves through Reiki practice, we're going to be more in that state of calm,
Yeah.
relaxed, centered. So that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Right.
cumulative.
And I think it heightens our own, even as a receiver, I think it heightens our own like intuitiveness on it, gets us more in touch with our own bodies. So we can
Oh,
notice.
absolutely.
And that's also effective, like you said, of the meditation and going inside and being quiet. Because if your body's screaming it needs this and you're loaded down with all that stuff, as we said earlier, how can you even hear what your body is trying to tell you? Because I do believe that our bodies already have the answer. It's whether or not we're listening to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have all the information.
Mhm.
If we just can get really quiet, it
Yeah.
can be revealed or we can hear it.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
that's what I said. I get great clarity when I have a question. What should I do now? Or, I'm not unsure about this. I don't know. And then I'd be like, there it is.
Yeah.
That's it. That's who I'm going to call. Or, yeah, that's going to be my next little program or whatever.
Uh,
So,
and it's like
yeah,
the light bulb that goes
it
off
is.
inside. It's oh, like that. And
That's
you can't even describe it, but you know.
That's so true. And it is like a light bulb going off.
It is
I used to
the
get
best
it more
feeling.
so in meditation, but I'd find, and I do both, but I find that for whatever reason, it's during my Reiki practices when I get the information. So
Mhm.
maybe I just go a little too deep at times in meditation. I don't know. But yeah, can really bring such great clarity. So, I used to have clients that would be, let's say they're like the vice president of sales or this one particular client that I'm thinking of. And he would say, I would come to you whenever I had to make a big decision because I'd always get the clarity that I need. So that was
Yeah.
really fascinating, right?
Yeah. And I think it's a true, like, innate sense of, okay, I can't do this for myself right now. So I'm going to go to a Reiki session and I'm going to get that. You know what I mean? It's like you're still doing it yourself because you're making the decision to go there, even for those moments when you can get that clarity if you're struggling, bringing it, more into your daily life, which it does. It's creating a habit when you bring it into your daily life. And it has to be conscious. You have to consciously almost put it on your schedule. Like, I'm going to wake up this morning and this is what I'm going to do. And what I did months ago was I made this more commitment to do things not so randomly. And I set my alarm an hour earlier. And that was how I could handle doing it. I set my alarm an hour earlier. I'm going to do this and this, and I'm going to take that time for myself because I was having trouble squeezing it in by the end of the day. But I knew the importance of things like Reiki and meditation and adding them into my life. So you make room for them wherever you can.
Yeah, you do. That's what you do. You have to apply a little effort and figure out the time of day that's right for you. And, for some people, that is upon awakening. But
Mhm.
then there's other people when they get home from work after they walk the dog or
Yeah.
dogs, then they sit down because they've had a hectic day. And it really helps them to bring them back to their
Uh-huh.
center, and, feel more relaxed, that they have a more enjoyable evening cooking dinner, and then they have an easier time maybe going to sleep.
Yeah.
That's possible. I mean, everybody, again, I say these things and everybody's experience can be a little bit different.
Mhm.
And then there's other people that prefer to do it before they go to sleep, when they get into bed, and they'll apply their hand, different hand placements then. And,
Mhm.
sometimes they fall asleep and they'll just pick up where they left off the next day or next night, or if they wake up in the middle of the night. It's a great way if you do wake up in the middle of the night to be able to put ourselves back to sleep.
Mhm. And even
Because
walking the dog and things like that, that's a form of meditation if you allow it
yes,
to be.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Walking. Yeah. Walking meditation.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's just so many different things that we can be doing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. You could be doing your hobby and meditating, whether it's, running or knitting or doing a puzzle,
True.
gardening, and it really doesn't matter. But I think we can make almost anything a meditative state if we
Exactly.
choose,
I agree. I
which is,
completely agree
which is
with
amazing.
that. And it's good to have that, with that balancing, something that helps with balance in our lives, and
Yeah,
that we shift into that state of balance or influences
exactly.
the body there.
Yeah.
It's like the doctor saying to us, rest, stay in bed, because they understand balance.
Yeah.
When you talk to a medical professional, I always talk about Reiki in terms of balance, because they get it and it
Mhm.
makes sense to them.
Yeah, it does
So,
make sense. It does make sense.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I hate to be cliche, but it is truly like the mind, body, and spirit. And I know when I am more balanced and I am more quiet and I can hear myself, I make better decisions. And I feel so much of life is you're making these decisions out of fear or flight or fight or whatever. And those often are not the best decisions to make for yourself. And we know it after we do it. We're like, oh, if I'd have just only had a little bit. If I'd only have taken the time to really think that through. I mean, how many times have we said that?
yeah, no, that's true. Operating from a place where you're not grounded,
Hmm.
and I can always tell if somebody, reaches out. Let's say it's a student of mine, and they've tried to do some work for, an acquaintance or friend, just to be helpful.
Hmm.
And they'll reach out to me and saying, oh my gosh, they said that the Reiki, it caused them to lose their job and their boyfriend break up. And I said, oh, wait a second. I'm sensing, does this sound like a grounded person? So whatever is happening in their life, it's not because of you, but the other things that are occurring. And Reiki might have just the practice may have maybe put them in a balanced
Hmm.
state that these things just kind of quickened, like
Yeah.
they were going to
Or like
happen
that light
anyway.
bulb. Yeah.
And so I'm trying to wrap my head around the right words for that. But it's not something that you did or the Reiki did, but they were already in this space.
Yeah. They were already
So
thinking it.
yeah, but that's what I do now. I'm right now thinking about something that somebody has asked me to do, and I'm not sure it's the right thing. And so I'm sitting on it, and I'm just, getting quiet in my practice time. And, what is is this a good fit or not? And I know what it's leaning towards, but I'll sit another day or two with it, because I'm not just going to hastily make that decision.
No, I tend to not make decisions too quick either. And that doesn't mean that there's not, sometimes you just know.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely those things you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I don't even have to think about it. I know that that's the right thing. But that's probably part of because you are already in tune with yourself and you were just waiting for the answer to appear. But sometimes when we're given choices and options, that's when I think that going inside helps a lot more with where we our decisions on those things.
And if you are diligent with your practice, when we do need to make those split second decisions, we're probably going to make a better decision,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Because we're coming at it in a much more calmer
Yeah.
um, state.
Now, how
So,
does,
in that,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say was, so with all of this, how does a session look like with you? And you do most of your sessions virtual, right?
No, not
No,
necessarily
a
anymore. I
little
mean,
bit half
for
and
a
half.
few years I had to, but um, so if I'm doing an in-person session, I generally the person will reach out, we'll schedule the
Okay.
time, mutually good time, and um, I don't do an intake. I don't really necessarily need to know what's going on. I just need to know little things like can they lie down on a traditional massage table? Can they lie down? I mean, I've had situations where people can't, and then make adjustments for them to be in a recliner or a chair, and and then I just follow the endocrine system. Sometimes I start at the crown of the head. Sometimes I start at like the torso. It just depends on, that might come to me intuitively. If they do share that they have, some sort of a condition somewhere or they're experiencing pain,
Mhm.
I'll work on that area for a little while because it will be comforting to them.
Yeah.
And so I'll do like 8 hand placements while the person's on their back. They are fully clothed.
Hmm.
And then I will have them, if they can, lie on their stomach. I'll have them on their stomach for a few minutes and apply like 3 or 4 hand placements while they're on their stomach. And I don't talk to them during my sessions. I
Hmm.
might have a little bit light music, nothing with lyrics in it playing. I am mindful of that because, some people like crystal bowls, sound bowls, and there were some people that do not like that at all. It will send them through the roof. It like makes their blood curl. So I do make sure it's real soft meditative music. And I like them just to, if they fall asleep, they fall asleep. It tells me that they need
Yeah.
to sleep. Yeah. So I don't even talk to them during the session. I want that time to be their time.
Yeah.
Once they're done, once I'm done with the session with them, then I give them a minute or a couple minutes just to kind of come to and really think about their time. How are they feeling? To contemplate on that. And then I'll spend a few minutes talking to them about their experience or helping them understand the experience or, whatever they were feeling during the session.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, my session. Sometimes I get some
Powerful though.
information. What's that?
It's
Yeah, it's
powerful.
powerful. Yeah. Yeah. And, with friends and family, a lot of times I'll be like, well, just tell me what you get. Well, I'm going to help you tell you what you get. Because, if I'm getting something, they're getting something
Yeah.
usually, you know. But yeah, it's really simple. It's really can be very powerful. It can be very subtle. I just never know what the response is going to be. And I try to stay away from setting any expectations,
Okay.
because, sometimes I'll have somebody say, well, that session, maybe it's their second session, was nothing like my first one. And
Mm.
that's oftentimes can be the case. It's very different
Yeah.
because you have a different need.
Yeah.
Right.
And your energetics are different in your body
Yeah.
because if you're continually either practice on yourself or going to see someone like yourself, your energy is constantly changing and more raising your vibration. But yeah, so you're in a different place than you came in. So it's kind of that always that what onion peeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
The level
Yeah.
skin of the onion. But yeah, so it's always I think about, well, what state am I in? Or something could have just happened. And then you come in and you're thinking, I'm coming in because I really need a rebalance. This thing just happened. It was unexpected. So now you're in a totally different state than maybe the first couple of times that you came in. So it really
Yeah.
is somewhat in the moment. Would you agree?
Yeah. 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 Because, for example, I had a friend who was having terrible knee pain from he was hit by a car, and he didn't want to take any over the counter pain medication, or he didn't want to take any kind of prescription medication. So I said, well, just come have a session with me. Well, he was funny. He kept talking and talking and talking, and he just was talking. I just let him talk. And when we finished up with the session, he said to me, he's talking away, and all of a sudden it dawned on him. He's like, my pain's gone. What
Ooh.
did you do? And I said, well, I didn't do anything. Well, no, my pain's gone. Well, as a matter of fact, and he had something that, that was constantly nagging him on his mind. And that just sort of dissipated for him. It no longer was an issue. So not only did his pain improve
Mhm.
and virtually went away, but this other thing that had been really bothering him, he just sort
Yeah.
of thought through it, and it no longer was an issue. And he was completely blown away by that. Like, I wasn't expecting that, you know? Um, I had a gentleman that came back from Afghanistan
Mhm.
who really needed something. Is his words to me. And one of the things that he was experiencing was some pain. And when he left, before he left, he said, I'd love to come back for another session. Great. Just reach out when you're going to be back this way. Because he lived about 2 hours away.
Okay.
And he sent an email. I don't even know if it was 36 hours later. And he said, I can't wait for 2 weeks that long. Because I had the most amazing experience. I had this major release, 24-hour release, and I feel incredible. So again, it wasn't, and I didn't set an expectation. but he had this wonderful experience that he had no idea was possible. And so we really don't know. And that's why I try to stay away from trying to set some sort of an expectation, because I don't know what's going on with you that day. You could have had a horrible day at work thinking you're coming in to relieve some pain, and then you have a more emotional response. I had an ER doctor that would come in and she would just laugh. She's like, why do I keep laughing? I'm like, that's your way of releasing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of rare for me to see. I didn't see that from a lot of people, but that was her release, her emotional release, right?
Yeah. And our body knows when it's ready to let go of something, whether we are cognizant of that or conscious of it. I think our body knows. It's like, okay, well, you're ready to release this thing now. So would you say that it has more to do with your body knowing what to release and then releasing that during a session? Or if I come into a session, I imagine it's not a bad thing, but if you had an intention, my intention with this session with Kandi today is to work on this aspect of myself. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. If that's your intent, you can set your intention.
Okay.
Now, whether your body will respond to it, because your body's going to respond with what it needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Your body always knows best, right?
It's your body that responds. That's why I tell people, when people keep saying it's energy, it's energy, it's energy. Well, I'm not directing anything or trying to influence a specific outcome, but because this is a whole body session, a whole body treatment, your body's going to respond to what it needs. Yeah. If I was doing some other practice, like an energy medicine practice where, you place your hands and your fingers this way, and then you move it this way for a tension headache, that's manipulating the energy and to have a specific intervention or a specific outcome, I should say. Right.
Yeah.
But with Reiki, I don't need to do that. Now, it's not to say I can't place my hand on somebody's knee that's having a tremendous knee pain for the entire session, but that's not what I'll do, because the body can benefit, the whole body, from this session, not just the knee. I mean, I could have my hands at the crown and the knee pain could diminish significantly, or maybe just diminish somewhat or significantly, or maybe even go away for a period of time. I don't know how long. I can't predict, and I don't try to do that. But yeah, the body will respond.
Yeah.
The response from the body.
It's trusting.
Because it's intelligent.
Oh my gosh. It's the most intelligent. We don't even have to understand it. Like, it's the most intelligent thing ever. And we're in it every day, every moment of every day. We're in this body that we're only just beginning to understand more and more on this deeper level. And I think Reiki is one of those levels where you can really tap into understanding and being much more intuitive about your own body.
Being intuitive and in tune with it. That's I think, to me, that's for me personally, it's just being in tune with it. Okay, what does it need? And just listening. Yeah. So the in-person session is like that. And then the distance session is, I don't really need to be on the phone or a Zoom call with people. I don't know, and, establish a time with them. I talk to them just before the session, and make sure that they're in a quiet location and, with minimal distractions, and, have a blanket and glass of water and tissues in case they need them. And I'll talk to them a few minutes. I'll hang up with them. If they want to stay on the phone or if they want to do a Zoom call, that's perfectly fine. I don't have any issues with that. We can certainly do it, but I don't have to do that. I don't even need to know what the person looks like. Oh, and wow. And oftentimes I don't. And after the time's up, I'll call them. Sometimes they've fallen asleep and they'll miss the call, or other times they'll pick it up, and we'll help them, understand their experience. Yeah. So that's how I handle the distance sessions.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, and you have a self-healing challenge going on as well.
Oh, right. So because it was my 15th anniversary of practicing, on January 11th, I started a 30-day self-care practice. And so whether, you're a Reiki practitioner or not, you can still engage in it. But it was just a way for people to start, doing some personal work and getting in tune with that and understanding how are they feeling afterwards, and how does 30 days of practice work, at the end of the 30 days, where are you? What do you noticed maybe a little different? And so, yeah, I put that out there January 11th, and it's it was fun doing it. It was interesting.
Yeah, now it's up there.
Since it
So
was
you can go do
really,
it
I'm new,
anytime.
it was new to YouTube. And so I was like, it was hard getting, so I'm used to talking to people, right? People in front of me, or in Zoom. I did a lot of Zoom calls, and I do classes over Zoom still, but talking to a camera was very different. And I'm still getting comfortable with that.
Well, what's nice is now that it's all up on YouTube is people can bookmark it, you can save it. Please subscribe to her channel, which we will have the links to. But you can go to it anytime you want. Like anytime I'm feeling this, I feel like I'm needing this, go into that series and pick out one to do.
Just pick out one to do and sit and just apply it,
Or even better, do it for 30 days and then check in to see how you are after the 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll do some other challenges. I'll
Yeah.
probably do another one in April, something
Okay.
around Reiki. I'm going to do a manifestation one in a couple days, drop 5 days of just kind of, you'll see. I mean, if you do it, but I'll always start with Reiki practice, some
Okay.
Reiki practice, some self-care practice,
Mm-hmm.
so that, we can take that path of least resistance, right?
Yeah.
Drop the resistance.
And it puts
And
your frequency at a higher level too, so you're more
yeah,
receptive to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, check out the 30-day self-care
Yeah.
challenge.
So
Yay.
tell us all the ways that people can subscribe and follow you and come visit you either in person or virtually.
Yeah. So I do have a website, which is Reiki, the number 4, wellbeing.com. So that's all one word. There's no hyphens or anything like that. REIKI, the number 4, wellbeing.com. My YouTube channel my handle is at Kandi Mullen, KandiMullen. And yeah, subscribe for sure. It's free to subscribe. Hit
Yes.
the little notification bell so you'll know when, the next
The
next
next
video
challenge.
is available. And, liking and sharing it with others. I have a lot of people that said, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. I've just shared it with some friends, or I shared it with my mom, or I shared it with my daughter. So, yeah, I mean, feel free to share it as much as you want. Comment. I love to see the comments and how people are doing with it.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
no
on
worries, all that
Instagram, but I'm not.
information will be
What's
yeah,
that?
I was gonna say no worries. If you can't write it down, all the information will be in the descriptions on whatever platform you were watching or listening.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't we just do that? Yeah, you have for the
Yeah.
most part my YouTube and my website.
Okay. And then you said Instagram too. So we'll put all of that on
Yeah.
there so we can follow you everywhere. So as from all that we've talked about, what do you think is if somebody was just starting out today, what is the number one thing that you would give them advice for?
Just starting out on their Reiki journey.
Yeah, on their way. Like if they're just starting out and they're like, I really think I like this Reiki thing. Like, what's like just the one tip or
Yep.
a piece of advice that you could give them to get started, to get going and more into it?
Get started right away and develop a Reiki self-care habit.
Okay.
Because we can develop habits,
Mm-hmm.
and we seem to do well as a society of developing bad habits. We can just as easily develop a good habit. And that's a really good way, especially if you're looking to open up more, if you're looking to heal, if you're looking for a way if you just have questions or you just don't know what else to do, to bring more balance into your everyday life, to feel calmer, to feel more centered. And it's just a wonderful practice. And it really does have so many benefits. It's hard to believe, but it really can benefit us in so many different aspects of our lives, such a variety of ways. So I would say take a class, take the level 1 Reiki class. That's all that most people need.
Okay.
And start doing some of your own personal practice work.
Yeah.
And you may just, 30 days from now, a year from now, just see how your life has evolved and maybe even changed a bit. Maybe you'll have a new job.
You never know. And there's no quicker, easier way to start than your 30-day self-care challenge.
Exactly.
It's already right there.
Exactly. There you go. I've already got it out there for you.
Exactly. So jump on.
There's your plan.
Yes. So bookmark that playlist and go start the 30-day challenge. And oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on. I hope to have you back and we'll explore some other topics. Maybe we'll do some Reiki in the meantime. But thank you so much. I loved it.
Well, thank you, Michelle. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it. It was great talking with you. I loved how engaged you were in our conversation. And, I hope that many others find value in what we just talked about today.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to her channel and go to her website and all things Reiki and even more.
And even more. Excellent.
So we hope to have you back soon. And until then, this is Michelle with another episode of The Wealth Within Us.